Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. Today, we're going to be analyzing the GOP's recent surge in the generic ballot. Kind of an interesting thing to look at. As you can see here, this is the generic ballot. So, this is basically what pollsters do is they will ask a bunch of either registered or likely voters just who do you plan on voting for? Who do you support? Not necessarily individual candidates, but as people across the country, Republicans and Democrats, the independents, they just say, who do you plan on voting for? Do you plan on voting for the Republican ticket, the Democratic ticket? Which party do you view more favorably, I guess you could say? And you can see here for the longest time, Democrats had a pretty sizable lead. This was back when Biden was first inaugurated president. Over the summer, after the whole thing in Afghanistan, it kind of narrowed up quite a bit, but Democrats still maintained a solid lead even in November. We're at November 3rd right now when Glenn Youngkin, not November 5th, November 3rd, when Glenn Youngkin won his election in Virginia in a massive upset. The state shifted like 10 points to the right. Even then, technically in the generic ballot, Democrats had about a 1.1 lead. So Democrats were leading in the generic ballot when Glenn Youngkin won his election. After that, as you can see, Republicans had a pretty big surge, leading by about 4 points or so for pretty much the entire spring, pretty much from middle of November of 2021 until July of 2022. The Republicans had about a 4 or 5 lead or so in the generic ballot. However, after Roe v. Wade and gas prices going down, that lead is pretty much collapsed, and it's now pretty much a dead heat. As you can see here, Republicans led by about 0.1, Republicans 0.4, Democrats plus 0, Democrats 0.5, and then Democrats kind of had a little bit of a surge. But now, as you can see here, two recent polls have come out that put three polls have actually come out recently that put the GOP doing very well. You have this one from ABC News and the Washington Post, which has the Republicans leading by 5. We have a poll from the CBS Battleground Tracker, which has Republicans up by 1. Emerson, which is a very accurate pollster, has Republicans and Democrats in a complete tie. And Rasmussen, which is a pretty accurate pollster most of the time. They have their biases, but like everyone, but they're pretty accurate overall. They have Republicans leading by 2. We're going to look at this ABC News poll, in my opinion, because this is a pretty interesting poll. ABC News, they're more or less accurate, and Republicans have actually been surging. If we look at the likely voters who actually, say they're going to vote, in that case, Republicans lead 51-46, while in terms of just voters in general, Republicans lead 47-46, only by 1 point, which is interesting because a lot of the pollsters are still using registered voters as terms of like the people they poll. I've been saying if you use registered voters, that's not a good metric, because just because they're registered to vote doesn't mean they are going to vote. It just means they have the ability to. It doesn't say if they're going to or not. Likely voters are voters who are actually going to vote. And if you use registered voters, then you're always going to have a Democratic bias, just because that's how it works. There are more registered Democrats than registered Republicans. When you use registered voters, Republicans lead 47-46. And when you use likely voters, Republicans lead 51-46. Pretty big difference there. Come down here, look at the vote preference. A lot of Trump voters are pretty much completely in sync, and Democrat voters prefer someone besides Biden to run. Come down here, look at abortion. People say there's too many restrictions. Even some Republicans say that. People say about right, too much access. Democrats say too much access to abortion, actually, which is interesting. But if we come down here, I want to look at this is what I want to look at. So if you look at the state of the top issues, 84% of people said the economy was the biggest issue. Those voters trusted the Republican Party by 16 points. If 84% of the electorate is the economy as the biggest issue, and Republicans are winning on the economy by 16 points, that is a very good sign. Inflation, 76% said it's the most important thing. Republicans lead by 19. Crime, 70% of voters say it is the most important issue to them. Republicans by 14. Education and schools, Democrats hold a 6-point lead, which is surprising to me. I'm not sure what education and schools Democrats would have a lead on. You would think that based on what happened in Virginia, that would be the opposite. But for whatever reason, Democrats do have a lead on education and schools. Immigration, voters seem to favor the Democrats on at Z+1. But that said, that is a pretty big issue. And then abortion, obviously, Democrats have a pretty sizable lead on. But if you look at the actual issues that are most important, the economy, inflation, crime, Republicans lead pretty sizably in all those pollsters. Voters trust the GOP when it comes to the issues that really matter. And this is just the mathematics here. Not a whole lot to say. So basically the GOP is actually doing pretty well overall. Honestly, that poll has the Republicans in a good spot. And like I said, I expect more polls to come out that are favoring the GOP, because if the registered voters, Democrats plus 5, if we adjust it like we did for this other poll, it's basically a dead heat. And so this is a pretty close race. I do believe Republicans are going to have a little bit of a surge. I expect future generic ballot polls to have the GOP slowly taking the lead, and I expect the Republicans will probably lead by about 2-3 points or so by election. I don't expect Republicans to be like leading by 5 points or so. Although that would be great, I just don't think it's going to happen just because of abortion being an issue and the pollsters, do having some sort of Democratic bias. So I do expect Republicans to gain the lead in the generic ballot, although I do not expect it to be a very huge lead, and I think that'll probably actually be pretty accurate. I have the generic ballot right now at about R+4. I think Republicans will probably take like a 2-3 point lead. They'll probably outperform it by like a point or so. So with that, thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe for more.